So it's supposed to be a little more of a relaxed show, not a whole lot going on. Got to keep the feet hot here all summer. Don't want to be away for too long. Got a couple of things to do, going out of town for a few days here and there. So it's going to be a little more of a laid-back show. But then we just had the weekend that we had. And so we want to get right to it. So normally right now, like Vic, pop yourself hot here for a couple of seconds real quick. Normally on a casual, like, oh, it's July 14th, just after 3 o'clock Eastern, I'd say, Vic, good for you for playing off the you're producing this from prison bit with the free Vic over your right shoulder, which I applaud very much. And you still do look like you're actually our new name. You used to be Vacation Vic. Now you're Incarcerated Vic. That's the new name that we're going for you. You got the prison stripes on. You're making park benches and license plates when you're not producing this show, and we respect it here. Normally, Vic and I would have a little casual back and forth on this, and we just sort of gently glide into the show. But we got a lot to get to today, including Greg Wyshynski, who's standing by. So let's get right to our daily outline, and we'll get right to the topics that we have at hand. Daily outline powered by FanDuel. Those are our friends. Hey, we make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up on the program today, you love him from ESPN and ESPN.com. He's the one and only Greg Wyshynski for some MVSW Redux today. We will talk about Arturs Silovs and the trade of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll talk about Sidney Crosby. We'll talk about Ryan Reaves. He's upset. He's angry. And you won't like him when he's angry. Going for a Hulk thing there / Bill Bixby. Anyway, decentralizing the draft. A shock to you? A shock to me. And we'll talk about opening night as well. And plenty more topics up for grabs as we bring aboard Greg Wyshynski. But before we get there, we would like to remind you that this segment, and by extension Greg, is brought to you by Simply Spiked. Summer is here, hanging out in the great weather with great friends. And you know what? You want that feeling to last forever. But you can squeeze every drop out of summer with Simply Spiked. Simply Spiked has 3 delicious flavors. The OG Summer Classic, Simply Spiked Lemonade. That's always a party favorite. Or you can try sweet and juicy summer sips with Simply Spiked Peach. Or check out the newest flavor in the Simply Spiked lineup, Simply Spiked Limeade. It is sweet and tart. Now, if you don't know which one you want to try, why not try them all? With the Simply Spiked Variety Pack, these juice beverages are 5% alcohol, contain real fruit juice, and are the perfect, refreshing, and convenient summer drink. Simply Spiked pairs perfectly with any summer occasion. That includes summer hangs, barbecues, pool parties, backyard hangs. Simply Spiked launched in Canada in 2023 and has been bringing the juiciness ever since. Pick up Simply Spiked at your local liquor store for your next summer hangout. Must be legal drinking age. Please celebrate responsibly. There, we've done our civic duty, reminding people to celebrate responsibly. Someone who always celebrates responsibly is our friend Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Has never been one to be overserved by scurrilous bartenders across North America near NHL rinks. How are you, Wish?
I'm good. You know, for all the talk about shirts, I want to point out that Marek appears to be the bassist for a goth band that does Jimmy Buffett covers.
You know what? You know why? Because I just this is so me. I discover things like really, really late, and while they're actually happening, I don't really have a lot of time for them. You know what I've been ODing on going for my runs these days, and I've just suddenly discovered, like, to me, they're a new band. You're gonna laugh. The Cure.
It was gonna be The Cure, and this is a band you've just discovered.
Yeah, they're really good.
Robert Smith is like 95 years old, still with the same Edward Scissorhands hair that he had back in the 1980s. But you, sir, have just discovered The Cure.
To me, he's 25. To me, he's 25 years old, and this is so cool. And now, wow, he's wearing a hockey jersey on stage. Yeah, I've just discovered The Cure, and I'm ODing on The Cure during my runs.
That's funny because I've rediscovered a band too. So when I was in college, it was during the Britpop invasion. So we're talking Blur, Oasis, Elastica.
Are you living in a Champagne supernova now? Are you going to say Oasis? One day you will find me.
One might say I'm in orbit around a Champagne supernova at all times. So I listened to all those bands, but the one band that wasn't necessarily on my radar was a band called Pulp. And
great band.
They're the ones who did Jarvis Cocker. They did Common People, which I think is probably one of the best songs in the last 30 years. But they put out a new album recently called More.
How is it?
And the first two singles really caught me. I'm like, well, shit, did I sleep on Pulp? And it turns out I very much slept on Pulp. That is an amazing band. Good. So I've gone back and revisited all of the albums they put out during the Britpop invasion. The new album is really good. Jarvis Cocker
is the best.
Jarvis Cocker, you may know as the guy who I believe mooned the camera and made fart motions with his hands during a Michael Jackson performance at the British Music Awards once, and was like arrested for it, which is kind of amazing. So Pulp, rediscover
Jarvis
Pulp.
Cocker may be the most stylish man in the history of music. I remember reading an interview. God, what magazine was it? I can't remember. British GQ, perhaps. And this line always stuck with me, and it is perfect. Jarvis Cocker. He said, I don't own any casual clothes because you never know.
Well, he's also stylish. He wears all like earth tones, which I think is also very important. Like he's stylish in the way that that an English professor at a very hoity-toity college might be stylish. So I always appreciate that. Yeah, Pulp, the new album is really fantastic, and it deals, not only is it good music, but it also deals with something that I can relate to, which is a content creator aging into new phases of life.
Oh, there you see, like was like being rejected by girls in high school, which they surfed on and university for about about a dozen albums. A dozen albums of being sexually frustrated frosh. Yeah, but 12 albums out of Pulp for that motif. How are we going to dovetail to talk about the decentralized draft coming off of that? How about this? How about we play a clip? So on Leafs Morning Take today, Bill Armstrong, the general manager of the Utah Mammoth, was interviewed, and one of the questions asked was about the vote to keep the draft decentralized. Greg, lend your ears.
Did you vote in favor of decentralizing the draft or keeping it that way? Can you disclose that and maybe the thought process behind all that?
I can't really disclose it. Some of that stuff's at a higher pay grade than mine, so I tend to want to stay out of that.
Okay.
How do I?
So there's only two higher pay grades than Bill Armstrong with the Utah Mammoth, and one is Chris Armstrong, the CEO of the team, and above him is Ryan Smith, the owner of the team.
Yep.
And Ashley Smith, the owner of the team.
Yep.
This is what we heard the entire time about this decentralized draft. Like for all of the talk about, we can get our war room together and it'll be quieter and less distractions and this, that, and the other thing, logistic. It all came down to the money. Like I tried to tell people the whole time when they were talking about the pros and cons of this thing. It's all about, will it cost less to have all of our scouts and all of our people in-house, on site, doing this thing from like the facilities, than to fly them out and buy them all hotel rooms and buy them all dinners and buy them all flights at whatever city the NHL decides to put the draft in. And people would say, well, aren't the scouts flying to the facility? And I'm like, that is absolutely correct. But the GMs are there and the hockey ops are there. And also, let's not forget, the PR people are there and the social people are there and all of the other structure that you have to put on the road for the draft. By the way, the draft is a very big deal for these teams, and you have to have everybody on site to deliver content back to your fans, and also make huge decisions that will influence the future of your franchise for the next decade. And all of that costs money to move. And at the end of the day, I guess they looked at the bottom line, Marek, and they said, wow, I can't believe how much money we saved doing this shit on site. Forget about the draft.
Yeah. But again, that's see, I look at that and I say to myself, micro versus macro, penny wise, pound foolish, and say to myself, like, not only does the draft act as, well, hey, we're picking players and setting the course of our franchise, as you point out, for the next 10 years, but the draft is an event where the whole, like, the hockey world all comes together. Like, it's one event where everybody goes, and there's meetings and people get together. We used to always, when we were doing the MVSW podcast, we'd always do shows. We would always do meetups, and people do that. And there's coaches conferences, and just like, it's just an event where the whole industry can get together. And when you do it this way, the whole industry can't get together, and then you don't have that on your calendar. whatsoever. That doesn't become part, like there's no one moment where everybody sort of reminds themselves like, oh yeah, we're all kind of doing this one thing. And not to get like overly maudlin about it, but like it's a sort of celebration of hockey crap that you always hear, but it's a celebration of the game. And like, I'm the first guy to knock that, to play whack-a-mole with that sentiment, but it's true. It's the one time where everybody gets together from so many different levels. And I'll tell you what, you know where it's valuable too? For people that are looking for either entry-level jobs in the industry or want to get a chance to network and want to get a chance to take their career to the next step and just meet a bunch of new people as well and get more ingrained. How many times have you had someone ask, like, how do I get involved? How do I get in? It's like you get in like in any other industry. You put your hand up for every crummy job and you start to meet people. And then you just network your way all the way through. There's no secret. And now that you don't have this, I think as much as we keep hearing it's good of the game, we got to do what's right for the game. We got to do this for the good of the game. This is not good for the game. This is like, I'm going to save a couple of bucks so everybody stay put. And now we can't have this. NHL doesn't. The NHL doesn't want it. The players don't want it like this. They won't admit it, but the players don't want it like this. The agents don't want it like this. Broadcasters don't want it like this. The fans, the people that have the nerve to open up their wallets for this industry don't want it like this. The only people that want it like this are the guys that have to write the checks. That's it.
Are you saying that we might have more than 3 people, 2 of them potential draft picks in the building for day 2 of the draft? If there was a reason for people to be there, because that was the crowd for day 2 of the draft in Los Angeles. I think I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. The first NHL event I ever covered as a journalist was the draft where Patrick Kane went first overall. It was the first time I ever covered anything. I was writing for AOL Fan House, RIP, home to some of your favorite writers, James Myrtle being one of them.
Oh, nice.
And I paid my own way on a bus from Washington, D.C. to go to the draft. I believe that was Columbus, right? Where Patrick Kane went first. I'm not mixing up my years, I don't think. It was either that or the Stamkos here. So I'm on a bus. It was a bunch of freaks. I left at like midnight. It was an overnighter. There was a woman in the front seat, I remember, who was cutting her hair with a straight razor blade, which I thought was a little odd, but that's bus for you. And then, you go there as a young reporter and you meet all of these, like you said, you meet all these people the first time. I'll never forget walking across a crosswalk and bumping into Cam Neely. And at the time, as a young writer, there you were wearing an Ulf Samuelsson Pittsburgh jersey. You thought, bad timing by me, bad call by me to pull Ulfie's jersey out. He scored a bunch of goals against the Devils when I was growing up, and I loved him in Dumb and Dumber, and here he is, and so one of the things that we'll miss, to your point, is not only like young people networking, but also like
it's great.
You go to the draft and you see more random website journalists than you do at any other NHL event during the season. They have auxiliary seating. Everybody can get in a credential. Basically, you cut your teeth there. You meet people. It's a huge, when you talk about like the next generations of hockey writers coming up, it's a very, very important event for that very purpose. But the other thing, what you said could be summed up like this: it's also like the end of Cannonball Run, when all of the different teams are at the finish line and they're popping champagne because the race is over. That's also the NHL draft. It's also the last thing we do in the season before we're all remote and doing free agency and all this other stuff. And it's a chance to just kind of like, wear shorts on day 2 if you're Ken Campbell of the Hockey News. You know what I mean? It's like a very casual send off to what has been a marathon season. You know what I always love about the draft is watching the kids in the first. I remember sitting next to Dylan Strome, wear their jerseys back to the hotel, and you just know like they're wearing that thing all night long. Now I love that. Now, so the two. Go ahead. Can I just say the two things that obviously are going to change from this year's decentralized draft to next year's? Yeah. One, the on-stage presentation will be different. I believe we will not have people on stage getting drafted and then being in a situation where they feel like they're being fired over Zoom. We'll probably get rid of that. And the other thing I think will be different, and I'm hoping at least to be different, the one huge gripe people like Bill Armstrong had, not Bill in particular, but GMs around the league had about the decentralized draft was the reason we didn't see a lot of trades. They said not being in the same room with your peers was hurting the facilitating of transactions during the draft. And I wonder if that they just need a year to get used to it, or if this is just going to be how it is going forward, when you can't just walk over to somebody's table and have a chat. But I know the onstage presentation will be better next year. I'm hoping that we get more trades now that they kind of know how things work.
So a couple of things there. I threw this in the blog this morning that I put up, sort of a couple of tongue-in-cheek ideas, and I want to bounce a Tim Murray one off you in a second. But my thought is, it's like, okay, if you don't want to be there, no camera time for you. Like, just make it about the kids. Like, well, we're going to get rid of the draft house idea where you mentioned, like, you feel like you're being either interviewed or being fired over Zoom. Like, you don't want to be here? That's fine. No one from your team is going to be there. You don't have the general manager on video. You don't have any of that. It is just about the kids getting drafted. You have a bunch of vignettes ready to roll as soon as they get drafted, telling everybody from that new fan base why they should be excited about this player. It is all about the player who paid their own freight to get there, and two, and are the stars of the show. And as one agent mentioned to me on the weekend, which other TV show can you think of where the stars of the show don't get paid at all, and as a matter of fact have to pay their way to get to the sets? But I'll park that conversation for another day. But yeah, like, just make it about the kids. That's it. And no general managers on screen whatsoever. They could submit their pick, and then they get announced by someone. I'll tell you in a second. They get announced, and then a vignette rolls. They put on the jersey, and that's it. And you move things along quickly. Sorry to all the GMs out there. You don't want to be here? That's fine. No camera time.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have the GMs involved at all. I mean, unless it is
submit the pick
in a journalistic capacity later in the program. What I would love to see is sort of a marriage of the draft broadcast, and this is if it's us or whoever doing it, and by us I mean ESPN, and kind of mold and shape it into here's the draft, but here is also a gateway to the off season. And so if you're having a GM on, it should be a function of tell us about the person you drafted, but also tell us about the next 3 or 4 weeks for you and what that means and what your team is looking for and what could happen in free agency. Like, I would love to see it pivot, because honestly, there is a ceiling on the number of NHL fans that will watch the NHL draft if it is simply about the kids being drafted. But you increase that ceiling, I think, if you make it more about the NHL offseason, in the same way that the NBA draft is about the offseason. In many, and I think the NFL draft is more about the players than anything else. But I do think the NBA is a lot more, here's the offseason versus just here are the kids getting drafted.
The problem is time.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
32 picks and 32 interviews with kids and 32 interviews with general managers about the offseason.
But do we need 32 interviews with the kids? Couldn't we do an interview with all the kids and put them online digitally and just show the good ones? Like, there's a few, like no, we have 32 interviews.
No, you have to do them live, because the kid's got to talk about how excited he is to go to.
They're all live.
Detroit Red
They're
Wings.
all live, but then you pick the ones that are good. It's like when you're doing man on the street interviews.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You've done that. I've done that. You interview 20 people, and maybe 6 of them are interesting. It's the same thing as the draft.
That's fair.
So you take the 6 that are interesting, and you here. Our reporter just recently spoke to Latvian kid, and if Latvian kid's funny, then he makes the show, and if he doesn't, then congratulations, you're on YouTube. Congratulations, you're an ESPN Plus exclusive. Like, we don't have to put every kid on the TV. We could spend that time talking about off-season stuff and making the show more about general topics fans might be interested in, besides, like, congratulations to the Blue Jackets for drafting Latvian kid 16th.
Latvian kid.
Okay,
so here's...
If he's from Denmark, that's at least a novelty if he's from Denmark. If he's from Latvian, yeah, we've had Latvians before in the league.
Love Latvia. I've told you before, best hockey fans. Here's who needs to do the announcements for all of them.
Okay.
blast from the past. Bring him back. Nobody understands the principle of economy and no bullshit like Tim Murray, former general manager of the Buffalo Sabres. So his Sam Reinhart call at the Philadelphia draft, still the best. Buffalo Sabres take Sam Reinhart. No thanking everybody back at Buffalo. Congratulations, the Stanley Cup. Buffalo Sabres take Sam Reinhart. Now, I remember at a CHL NHL Top Prospects game talking, and this would have been at the Meridian Center in Niagara. I went up to Tim and we're having a conversation. I said, like, look, I loved what you did last year in Philadelphia when you took Sam Reinhart, just like no BS, just walked up there, announced the pick, and that was it, no BS. And we're having a laugh about it. And he says, do you know what I wanted to do? I said, no. He goes, here's what I really want to do. I want to break the record and set the record for fewest words said on stage while making a pick. And I'm like, well, how much less can you get than the Buffalo Sabres take Sam Reinhart? He goes, here's my idea, but they won't let me do it. I want to walk up on stage, point to who I want, and walk off stage. Not say a thing. Tell me that. So, that draft would have been the Eichel draft, the Sunrise Florida draft. So Tim Murray just walks up, points at Jack Eichel. Another kid stands up and no, not.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. 5 guys in the suits all stand up going, me, no,
oh,
him,
you,
him,
yeah. Come on.
That's a pretty funny story.
Bring Tim Murray back. Bring Tim Murray back.
I missed just the droll Tim Murray announcements, but look, man, like I hate the decentralized draft. I do. I mean, I think that for all of the reasons we spoke about, the celebratory aspect of it, the transactional aspect of it, the chance for us in the media to speak to all these GMs on site and then have content to provide for the next month because of it. All of the things that happen around the draft that are a celebration of hockey community, we lose all that. We lose all that with a decentralized draft. But I'm open-minded about why this is happening, and there are ways to maybe make it work. I'll use the Islanders as an example. I thought what the Islanders did for their draft party was incredible. I thought it was really cool. Mm-hmm. They had a little carnival inside of UBS Arena. They made it a really big deal. They were booing picks, they were cheering picks when it wasn't James Hagan. You know, it was a cool atmosphere. And my only like positive thought before we actually had the decentralized draft was, what if every market had their own little like get together? So instead of everybody converging on an arena somewhere in the US or Canada to do the draft, now we've got 32 of these things happening. And wouldn't that be fun? So if we can make it more of a, let's all get together and celebrate our season and look forward to the future in 32 individual markets, then we've got something. But I just don't think that'll manifest itself in the way that I hoped it does. Yeah. And at the end, I think we lose too much with the decentralized draft to really be happy about it repeating for another year.
So what you're asking for is 32 fan fests.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if we got there, that'd be great. And then you could, you can zoom in or FaceTime in the picks and stuff. Like the Islanders night was really fun. I mean, for a lot of different reasons, it helps when you have the first overall pick and the Hagens drama. But that was in my mind's eye, Marek, when I said to myself, how do we make this really shitty decision okay? It would be that format. But obviously, like we said, the owners, the CEOs, they read the receipts, they compared it to last year over year. How much does that send to send all these people to Montreal? And then they said, we could easily just do this again.
Not great. Okay, so Vic sent me a text after you said Latvian kid. He said, oh, dude, you missed a perfect segue to talk about Silovs. Vic, we had other things to talk about, but now we'll talk about Silovs. Okay, so the Vancouver-Pittsburgh trade. Now, my own personal theory about why Jim Rutherford always deals with Pittsburgh is twofold. One, he knows the organization. He's quite comfortable dealing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's the obvious one. My other thought, and this is especially true of Arturs Silovs, I think Jim has that old school never trade within the division mentality, and he is very comfortable sending his players to a place where they are rebuilding and are of no threat to his hockey team, the Vancouver Canucks, which is why I'm sure the Edmonton Oilers, for example, could have offered more than a 4th-round pick and someone that's the equivalent of Chase Stillman, but that could come back to haunt the Vancouver Canucks. Why would I try to help a conference rival when we're both competing for a playoff spot? Although you can argue the Oilers are competing for a cup, not a playoff spot. Do you think that's true? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the deal, he's just comfortable doing it, and that's an easy phone call for him.
Yeah, but I think that's true for every GM. I mean, where did John Gibson go?
So no, I know he went, but the thing is, like, I think that's the most that he could have gotten for John Gibson. I think he was just looking for someone to take full retention, like to take all of the money, and Steve just said, "Yeah, we'll take it."
I don't think you're incorrect, but I also don't think that Pat Verbeek's given John Gibson to the Oilers. I mean, if you're an ascendant team, if you're a team that believes they could be maybe a playoff contender this year, with Quenneville as your head coach, do you really want to trade John Gibson to a team you're going to see in the first round as a potential wild card?
If the Oilers would have hit the once upon a time price of 2 first-round picks, you don't think Pat Verbeek would have sent John Gibson to the Edmonton Oilers for 2 first-rounders?
I don't know. If anybody else anteed that up, that wasn't in your division, I think he probably sends it to somebody outside the division. Why would you want to help the Oilers if you're the Ducks? John Gibson's going to be around for multiple seasons.
I understand all that, but they're in different places, and they're like, if it's a team that's closest to your position in the winning cycle, then you say, no, we're not going to do that. But the Oilers are talking about the Stanley Cup. The Anaheim Ducks are talking about the playoffs. Different places in the winning cycle.
At some point, you have to stop being everybody's farm system for players and start transitioning to being a contender. And so if you're going to do that, then you would much rather potentially have a first-round playoff series against a team that's trotting out Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard than John Gibson. I mean, I think that has everything to do with Verbeek's decision. I think Pat Verbeek, competitor that he is going to be like, oh, let's help out a division rival.
By the way,
I don't think so at this point. I think he thinks that team is ascendant, especially with who the coach is these days.
Just as a quick aside, I mentioned this on Oilers Nation a couple of seconds ago with Tyler Yaremchuk and Liam, and I want to get it on here to make sure that we have this conversation. There's another Silovs situation happening in the NHL right now. Do you know where that is?
Where is that?
That is in Boston. With Michael DiPietro. Michael DiPietro, once upon a time, could have been taxi squatted out of the NHL. Remember when Vancouver had him on the taxi squad during COVID?
I do.
And we all thought, what's happening with this kid's development? He's not getting any games. He's not playing. To say nothing of that disastrous first start where they rushed him into the NHL because of an emergency and he got lit up by the San Jose Sharks, just destroying his confidence. All of a sudden now, Michael DiPietro has turned the career around, had a really good season year before, and then had a really good season last year with the Boston Bruins, Providence Bruins. He re-upped with the organization. And last time I checked, Jeremy Swayman wasn't going anywhere. Jonas Korpisalo wasn't going anywhere, which means... Do you really think you can sneak Michael DiPietro through waivers to get him back to Providence? Vancouver looked at Silovs and said, no way. And I'm guessing the Boston Bruins are saying, I hope no podcasts pick up on the fact that we have our own Silovs situation here now. But Michael DiPietro might just be the new Arturs Silovs. I just want to lob that out there for Oilers fans out there that, you know what? You may not have got your Arturs Silovs, but you may get a Michael DiPietro, not Latvian.
And we would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that pesky podcast.
Pesky podcast that told us about waivers and Michael DiPietro.
Didn't you? Was it you or was it someone else that thought that Jari could be the guy who ends up in Edmonton?
I think if the Penguins retain half, I think that there's a shot.
Yeah.
I don't think. I
think he's headed somewhere because they're obviously tank. They're in the full tank, so I know people's feelings on Jari are what they are, but he played pretty well down the stretch, and I think that they are more positioned to do what they want to do this season if he's off the roster.
Well,
I
now
mean, there's a
listen,
reason Nedeljkovic is in San Jose now.
Look, Blomqvist is getting a lot more action next year. We know that. Silovs is probably going to be the backup next year, and Jari is going to be the odd man out. I think the only question is which team, like, can Dubas move Tristan Jari without retention? Probably not. But which team is going to ask him to retain the least and maximize his return? And the other thing is too.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think he's better than either Skinner or Pickard?
Who, Tristan Jari?
Yeah.
He's shown at times
as a playoff goaltender. As a playoff goaltender.
I don't know about that because we've honestly I know that
that's
everyone's
a part of it too.
Like I can't give you like any sort of accurate frame of reference for it. Like we don't really know. I'll tell you that he looked great when he played for the Edmonton Oil Kings of the Western Hockey League in the playoffs, but that doesn't
like neither of us are Kevin Woodley, neither of us are Stephen Valiquette, like obviously, but when I think about what the Oilers need, then I think about what he's done in the playoffs. I'm like, maybe not the guy that you want to pursue, but I think he's probably better than Pickard and maybe on the same level as Skinner at this point in his career.
If you make the move for Tristan Jari and you're the Edmonton Oilers, you say to yourself, we hope that the most recent numbers are just reflective of playing behind a bad defense. And playing on a bad
team. He would scare the shit out of me in the playoffs. He would scare the living shit out of me in the playoffs.
But here's the thing about it. Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky, like the Russian goalie all-star team, like none of them are walking through that door. Any goaltender that Edmonton gets is going to have some question marks beside them. So it doesn't matter who you get. There's going to be that, geez, I don't know. Yeah, but you're not getting prime Marty Brodeur. You're not getting Buffalo Sabre Dominic Hasek. Like, you're not. Like, first of all, few of those goaltenders even exist anymore. And second of all, teams that have them aren't letting them go. They're not.
Your opportunity to acquire them passed. Not only because teams aren't letting them go, but also because your asset pool is now a puddle. And the time in which you'd be able to aggressively pursue one of them goaltenders before your asset pool became a puddle and before your cap situation became what it is right now. I mean, that was probably like 2 years ago. So it's like we're talking about the Marner trade. Like when was the right time to trade Marner? Well, 2 years before you had to.
Oh, before.
I mean, it's the same thing with Edmonton and goaltending. Like they cast their lot with two guys, and now they're kind of stuck with them because the opportunity to improve the position passed 2 years ago.
The thing is, Edmonton doesn't need Sergei Bobrovsky, right? The Oilers don't need like a goaltender that's going into the Hall of Fame. Like they got there with Stuart Skinner.
They didn't win.
They didn't win. That's what I'm saying. They need an improvement, but what they don't need is a first-team All-Star. They just need.
I'm not saying they have to trade for Sorokin. I completely agree with you on that. They need that. They need that B-tier guy. I don't think either Skinner or Pickard are a B-tier guy. I think it's an abject embarrassment to be in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final and not know who's playing for you. Like that's the bar. Like clear that bar. Know who's playing in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. There's your homework, Stan Bowman. See if you complete the assignment.
You got a thought on Sid these days? I keep telling people that this is all going to be by his hand, and it's going to be loyalty or competitiveness. May the stronger emotion win.
Let's talk about Sid. Last time we were together, I think we talked about Sid.
Yes, I think every time we've been together this year, we've talked about Sid.
Yeah. So I've used the same line over and over again because I know it to be true, which is that Sid is going to be in Pittsburgh as long as Gino's in Pittsburgh. Now, I've said that for the last year.
Yeah.
And then in the last week or so, I will make now
an amendment.
I will make an amendment. I will make an amendment. I will make an informed guess.
Someone had a conversation
about Sidney Crosby this year.
Somebody had a conversation with somebody about Crosby.
I'm not saying I've had a conversation with anybody. What am I going to do? What am I sit down with Sid and we're watching the History Channel together and he's telling me what he's going to do next season? Come on. I think this. I think if the Penguins get off to the start that we assume they're all going to get off to, which is like disastrous, like we are nose down to the ground and trying to get Gavin McKenna. I think he's I think he moves on before the end of the season. That's my prediction. If they are nowhere even within sniffing distance of a playoff position this year, early on or midway through the season, what have you, I think he's going to move on. I truly kind of, I believe it. I think he'll move on if they're not in playoff contention this year.
So this would not be initiated by Dubas Spezza. This would be initiated by Crosby Brisson.
I get the sense that like we've gotten to a point with the Penguins where it's very clear what the next steps are. Yeah. And that's part of this. The other part of it too is that, when you go and represent your country in the Olympics and then you come back and then the rest of your year is spent watching your draft lottery odds increase versus playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's kind of a bummer.
I get it.
And so I kind of think, inklings, speculation, informed, what have you.
Okay, so
if it's not a Penguins team that looks like it's going to be relevant, he's not going to be on the Penguins after the trade deadline.
Can I go conspiracy theory with you?
Go ahead.
That the reason that Sidney Crosby came in light on his last contract was to make himself more movable.
That's interesting. That's very good. I like that conspiracy theory. Taking one for the team, but also taking one for
my longevity and my competitiveness, and
taking one for my longevity.
Yeah. What do you think?
Now, I don't know about the other part of this, which is like, is it Colorado? Is it Montreal? Like that's another thing we've talked about ad nauseum on this.
Your
this
Montreal
program,
comment got some legs, man. That thing.
Well,
that
the
thing
Montreal
went from
Reddit
crawling to running. I know Montreal Reddit got a hold of that, and it's like,
I'm not like, Magellan on this one. Like I'm not the first one to mention that Sidney Crosby in Montreal may end up being the manifest destiny for the end of his career. But I will say that like it's obvious, like wherever he moves, it's going to be a team that is guaranteed to play in the playoffs. So if that's Colorado, that's Montreal, I don't know. But again, this is just kind of whether I think the wind's blowing now. And I'm sure this will not go over well with my friends in Pittsburgh who believe that he'll be retired as a Penguin. And I'm not discounting that. I don't think that should be discounted. The idea that this guy is brand loyal to the end and we'll see 87 of the rafters before we see him ever wear another jersey. But I will say that I think at this point in his career, at this point in the Penguins' trajectory, that if the wheels come off this team like we assume it will this year, because there's a lottery to win and you're the Penguins, that I think he'll be playing elsewhere.
Okay, so to all of our media friends in Pittsburgh, the headline should read like this: Wyshynski accuses Crosby of having loyalty issues. Accuses Crosby of disloyalty.
Listen, man, I would love nothing more for him to spend the rest of his career in Pittsburgh. I just don't know if it's trending that way anymore.
Interesting. You ever thought on the Silovs whole situation? I mean, the one thing for the Vancouver Canucks, they addressed it early. They didn't let this one linger. They got this one out of the way. Now, there's another one on the horizon with Linus Karlsson, who also needs waivers and had a great season in Abbotsford and an outstanding playoffs as well. I don't know that there's a spot for him on the roster right now. Waivers is as much a timing game as anything else, but they may have another situation on their hands here with Linus Karlsson. They've already lost Arturs Silovs because of this. Now could they lose someone else like Linus Karlsson? Like, when's the last time we had a team that was not a playoff squad have this many? We have too many good players. We can't get through waivers. Issue. Silovs is one, Karlsson's another, and there's like no playoffs, and you're the owner and you're pulling your hair out.
It's kind of wild. I mean, welcome to Pittsburgh, by the way. No, it is wacky how that seems to have happened with this roster, considering their success or lack thereof last season. But
all right,
that's why the waiver situation is always specious. You can always take your chances on it, or get ahead of it. Do you think DiPietro gets traded before camp from Boston?
Listen, Silovs was an obvious one because he was the MVP of the playoffs. He was great, and it was a massive, massive story. People in hockey know, right? Like, put it this way. You and I are talking about this on July 14th. Everybody in the NHL knows that Michael DiPietro just had a great season. And, you're looking around the goaltending market and you're saying, what's wrong with getting one of the best goaltenders in the American Hockey League? You can make the argument it's harder to be a goalie in the AHL than it is in the NHL. Because not everything is perfect in the American Hockey League, and there's a lot more shots coming from unexpected areas and more broken plays in front of you. It's harder to be a goalie in the American League than the NHL, where everything is, well, let's face it, perfect. Put it this way: if I'm Stan Bowman, I'm calling on a regular basis, saying, "Look, you put him on waivers, we're taking him for nothing, or do you want to make a deal now?"
I know they've got some bigger fish to fry, but what about VGK? Him to back up Adin Hill.
Michael DiPietro?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think there are a number, honestly, I think there would be a number of teams that would say, you know what, I'm not so sure, especially in this environment now where A, goaltenders get injured more than ever, and B, the idea of goalies playing 60, 70 games are gone, that you want to have as much insurance as you can. I think there'd be a couple of interested teams out there. Vegas?
I don't know. They have Schmid, right? I think out there, and Samsonov's a free agent still. I'm pretty sure, right? So, I don't know. We'll see. Vegas is a weird team, man. Have we talked about the fact that they have a forward group that is going to be the envy of the West, but a defense that you're just like, eh?
And the weird thing about it was is the defense is why they won the cup. Even though Jonathan Marchessault won the Conn Smythe, it was the defense that won the Stanley Cup. They were incredible. It was the best. I like the best blue lines we've ever seen.
I like their top four. I mean, their top four. Their top four would look a lot better if it was all of them down a peg behind like an Alex Pietrangelo on the top pairing.
That's the kill.
But I mean, their top four is solid. I don't think that they have a third pairing right now.
But the thing about
they're an interesting team.
The thing about Vegas now is like every second forward is a Selke candidate. It's Marner, Eichel, Stone, Carlson. Like every second player is like it's this is like that's Zetterberg all over again. Like, what do you want us to do? Defend, score? You just tell us, coach. We'll do whatever you want. That's what makes Vegas so fascinating to me. Okay, I wanted to make sure we got some. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I was going to say. Speaking of Vegas, we should talk about the Reaves thing, right?
That's where I wanted to go next. Yeah. First of all, great way of announcing it. Oh, by the way, they're really not going to like me in a second when they find out that I just got traded to San Jose. That is now a great lost rivalry. Do you remember how much those two cities hated each other? Like it was a blood feud. It was great, and it wasn't that long ago that Vegas and San Jose were just ugly games. And beautiful.
I covered the Pavelski 5-minute major game.
Yeah.
When the Sharks rallied, that was one of my favorite playoff games to cover
for sure
in a very, very long time. Those two teams had a real heat. I mean, when Vegas first came in, it was the Kings they had real heat with, and then very, very quickly it became the Sharks, where it became like a blood rivalry. And it was funny. I knew we were going to talk about this, so I went back and listened to Reaves get to know you with the San Jose Riders.
Yeah,
and like every question was basically like, "How does it feel to be in San Jose where everybody hates you?" And he's like, bygones be bygones. I'll protect Celebrini now. It's really funny how this sport works. But the comments about Toronto. What struck you most about the comments about Toronto?
That the fans were too hard on Marner.
Yes, and also he got into something that we've talked about for years about this market, which is that they have the same psychoses that the Washington Capitals used to have pre-Stanley Cup, which is when things are going right in the playoffs, it was like wind in your sails, man. It was a party. It was amazing. The minute things turned, it became a mortuary. It became a tension convention. And Reaves kind of spoke to that. This idea that like it's incredible how quickly things turn in the playoffs when all of a sudden the emotions shift and it's emo. It goes to extremes. And I thought it's always interesting when a player acknowledges that, because we see it and we feel it. But when they can say that they see it and feel it, then it's like, oh, the atmosphere of these games completely affects the way that these players are performing.
Here's the issue, though, and I've always felt this way about places like Toronto and New York and Montreal. This is the closest that you see to the NFL in the NHL. Mm-hmm. Like, these are the fans. This is what they expect. This is the pressure. You know, you can make the argument that, yeah, like you can call Leafs fans crazy and Habs fans crazy in two languages, but at the same time, like, that means that market is a success, and you want every single market to behave that way because your fans are ATMs at that point. And it's great, and everyone loves it, and everyone's crazy about it, and there's immense pressure on the players, and they're not just invisible citizens when they leave the rink. They might as well be wearing their name bar wherever they go because everybody knows who they are. Like that kind of, when you have that kind of pressure, that means you're successful. That means that organization has hit its stride. Now, I remember a line. I've talked about this before. It's always stuck with me. Bob Gainey once, I think this is when he was running the North Stars, he had a great line. He said, if you're a general manager and you don't have a headache, that means your team sucks. That means you have a bad team. Because if you have good teams, you have constant headaches, because having great players can give you headaches. Like they're difficult to manage. And there's difficult situations that come along with it. He said the worst thing, and I'm paraphrasing Bob Gainey here, but the spirit I think I'm hitting. He said, you know, the worst thing is for a general manager to have a good night's sleep, because that means your team is awful. Right? Like, oh, we're just bad, but there's no problems. It's great. It's easy to go to work. Like when you're a team like the Leafs and the Habs, like, you tell me that like Kent Hughes has peaceful sleeps. I think Brad Treliving has peaceful sleeps. Like not Chris Drury has peaceful sleep. Not a chance. There's no way. There's no way. But that comes along, and then you can also say that's what the money is for. That comes along with that type of success. It's the closest thing the NHL has to an NFL market.
I think Kent Hughes has been sleeping pretty good during what's essentially been a rebuild for the last couple of years. I think it ebbs and flows. By the way,
but now there's expectation. Now there's expectation.
There is. Crazy in French is folie, which I should have known because of the Joker sequel, Folie à Deux.
Oh, wait.
With him and Harley. So dumb. Terrible movie. No, there's definitely expectations now. When there's expectations, that's when the insomnia kicks in.
You know what's tough?
Yeah. So what struck you about we didn't talk about his Marner comments. What struck you about his Marner comments?
I mean, he's still in protect mode, right? Like that's like classic Ryan Reaves. I'm protecting the hive, and I'm protecting my guy. I don't know that. Like honestly, Marner is such a divisive player, but I think that no, shocking. I think that on the online community, first of all, is not reality. And by and large and overwhelmingly, and especially with a younger demographic, fans loved him. Fans adored Mitch Marner. I don't know that he was treated unfairly, other than he was treated unfairly from a loud segment of people online.
I don't know, man.
But here's the thing.
I know what you're saying. Like, I don't think the common fan scapegoated him.
Let me. I don't think they did. Let me add one thing to that too. Leafs fans want every center to be Dougie, and want every winger to be Wendell. That's what they want. Even though Dougie and Wendell never got further than the conference final, that's the expectation. You play like those two guys.
Marner clearly wanted to be Dougie too.
Wanted 93.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all the way through playing Dom Mills and Von Kings.
I think where you're wrong is that I do think that the common Leafs fan that's not terminally online was still very pissed off about the contract negotiation and the number they ultimately settled on. Like I think even the common fan understands when you look at what like happened in Pittsburgh and what happened in other places with regard to, the money they took or didn't take, and then look how Marner operated in that negotiation. I think that's kind of, even for the common fan, that was a bit of a tipping point. I don't know if the common fan really scapegoats Marner in the same way that an online fan would, or in many cases, an ex-player on a podcast would, because that's also a community that felt that Marner played to the periphery and didn't compete hard enough and would, call out moments during playoff games in which he didn't hustle. But I think overall his Q rating was quite high amongst Leafs fans.
To the point about the contract, and I don't know, like maybe you do. Hang on here. Was his percentage higher than what Crosby signed for when he signed his deal before this one with the Pittsburgh Penguins?
It's a good question.
Because I always think that we fall, and I'm guilty of this too, of just looking at the number as opposed to the percentage of contract. Because we all look back at Sid and how well that contract aged, and we said, oh, look how selfless Crosby was. But when he signed that contract at 8.7 AAV, what was the percentage of cap at the same time? And was it that dissimilar to what Marner?
I don't have that. I don't have that.
I don't know. But I know we always look at the number and go like, look how selfless Sid was. But the thing is, like, again, no one can predict a pandemic. And those contracts aged poorly because the cap flattened. All of that was predicated on the cap going up. But eventually, they look bad in the first couple of years. But then it's all gonna even out. And you're gonna look back and go like, it got me at the beginning, but by the end of the contract year, it looks like a valuable deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I mean, he still took 10.893 and then $31 million in the first 2 years of the contract.
But here's the thing that I know that it's we're all educated now to like, every extra dollar a player takes, that's one less dollar that the manager can spend on another player. But I've never understood fans that get really mad at players for doing the exact same thing that they would do if they were in that situation.
You think every fan would just go for the max? Because everybody who's not an NHL player is an inherently greedy SOB that doesn't understand the value in taking a little less so your team can get a defenseman.
I still think that it's stunning that Brad Richards is the only player that's taken the 20%. Like you would think that by now, like there'd be someone else that goes like, I want all the money. I feel like I deserve 20%, and if you agree, pay me. If not, I'm gonna go find someone else that will pay me the 20%.
Yeah.
I'm still stunned that it's only happened once. Listen,
I'm inherently a player's guy, right? And so get whatever you can. The sport is a meat grinder, and your best. You could be in this sport for 5 to 6 years, depending on what your injury curve is, or what the GMs think of you, or else you could be out in Midgorsk by the end of it. That being said, though, like I also am somebody who understands that when you get yours, like you just said, someone else isn't getting theirs, and the team might not get what they want from the in a capped environment. And so I don't begrudge players getting their securing their bag, but I also don't begrudge fans for having an issue when they do, because there is another domino that falls
here's the thing,
which is that your team can't maybe be as good as it could be if you had taken $1 million less.
I get it. Let me get to one more point here, because we're getting heavy on time here. The one further point on Ryan Reaves going to San Jose. There was a lot of talk after Reaves' comments and Maple Leafs fans saying like he only fought once last year, and it was because they made an issue of it, and finally he had to fight Mathieu Olivier. There's one class of player that really doesn't like to be traded, and that's a tough guy. You know why?
Why?
When you go to a new market, you have to prove it all over again.
Yeah, it's true.
When you're like, if you just stay with the team, like Ty Domi was a great example. Like Ty Domi, at the time he settled into Toronto, he established a reputation, and he could surf on the reputation. He didn't have to fight 20 times a year, right? Because he had that rep. And then you get later into your career, and that's where Ryan Reaves is right now. And you're Ryan Reaves, and you're going to a new market. You're going to San Jose. And what are San Jose Sharks fans thinking about Ryan Reaves? We've heard all these great things about this guy, about how tough he is. Let's see. And now Reaves got to prove it all over again. And if
you basically have to fight in your first game against Vegas if you're Ryan Reaves, don't you?
Yes.
Like, don't you have to do that?
Yes.
For aesthetics and also for the internals.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're probably correct on that one. Yes. You're probably right. You have to break the bond for sure. If you're Ryan Reaves, you probably have to. But I always think about that. Like when tough guys get traded, it's got to be so tough because you're going to a situation where it's like, oh, I got to go show everybody that I can do this. Yeah. This is really hard and this really sucks. And all the sleepless nights and the broken knuckles that I'm going to have to go through all over again.
Not only that, you got to get on a text chain with the boys and then apologize to the one guy you beat the shit out of last year. It's kind of like a Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand situation writ large when you're Ryan Reaves.
Remember when I kept hitting you and yelling, "Stay down, stay down"? Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
Just part of the job, you know.
At least it didn't happen on a golf course. In Canada,
sorry about your
Western
orbital bone.
Yeah, sorry about that one. But Nick Tarnowski.
I wanted to ask you. I know we're up against time, but I wanted to ask you one thing about the CBA.
Okay.
So the players can endorse booze, but they can't endorse weed. Your thoughts?
Because weed isn't legal everywhere. I get it. I understand that one. I don't like it, but
shouldn't it be like by location by location, kind of like, you know?
I don't disagree, but then you're discount. But then aren't you like discounting other certain players from participating in financial activity that others are shut out from by way of their CBA? Listen. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. I'm sure there's a lawyer that says, like, you know, probably best just to leave that out, that whole category out until it's legal everywhere.
So now I
agree with you. Just trust.
Yeah,
dude, you know me. Trust me. I agree with you 100%.
Now so I'm clear. Now we're legislating geographic advantages financially for players with the weed issues when we do it. Nothing else.
That's it. I can't go there. Weed's not legal. I wonder how many players will have that. How come you? How come you turned down this team? How come you wouldn't waive your no trade? Weed's illegal.
That's right.
I just want one player to say that.
That's why the Panthers keep winning. They're a weed legal. I don't even think weed is legal in Florida.
It's not legal.
They're a weed legal state.
Never mind tax-free state. We want I'm only going to a weed legal state. I want a player to come out and say that.
It's now the greatest recruitment line for the Rangers and Islanders. We're weed legal here in New York.
Weed legal. Come join us. Natural painkiller.
I'm happy about I'm very happy about the booze thing, by the way, which means because I think that brings us the closest we've ever been to the 1980s Miller beer aesthetics of having NHL players throwing chairs at each other in commercials and chanting
John Davidson.
Less feeling tastes great. Yeah, like
John Davidson. This is one of the best hockey commercials of all time. Oh yeah.
You want to see the personalities of players? Put them in beer commercials. Then you will see the personalities of players,
the John Davidson Miller commercial is that with all the goaltenders. They don't recognize each other until they put the masks on. Hey, Tony Espes. That one is one of my favorite hockey commercials of all time. Give me that all day. Once upon a time, players, how many times have you, I've got somewhere here in this stash of old hockey crap, like Charlie Gardner advertising like cigarette companies. Go look at any old hockey magazines, and you see players advertising booze and cigarettes and all kinds of stuff.
I have an old magazine advertisement in my house, framed, which was from a magazine. It was an Olympic skier that was advertising cigarettes, being like, when I'm hurtling downhill, I know what I need for peak performances.
Yes,
Lucky Strike.
When I hit that finish line, folks.
When I'm darting down the hill, I need my darts.
And don't forget, kids, secondhand smoke is secondhand cool. Secondhand smoke is secondhand cool. Okay, that's our time to wrap. You, sir, have a good rest of your week, and we will catch up soon. I'm not sure when.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
The schedule pods are it's pretty infrequent right now.
It's going to be a little vacay time for your boy. So we obviously didn't talk about this before the podcast, so I'll just tell you this now. I'll probably see everybody in the great month of August, the way that things are trending cool. Vacation-wise for this nice. Tired young man. Young in context, but tired.
Keep digging. I'm not going to talk. You just keep digging. All right, Wish.
All right.
Thanks.
Love you, everybody. Bye.
There he is. The great Greg Wyshynski from ESPN and ESPN.com. Holy smokes, Vic, you're supposed to rein us in a little bit. We're just going Broadway there. It's 4:00 and I got to go get kids from hockey. But that's okay.
Our commercials.
Yeah, dude. I'm sure you've seen all those old ads of guys advertising cigarettes and beer and all that. I wish Gump Worsley were still alive. The original Biz Nasty Gump Worsley. Recommend They Call Me Gump to everyone. It's still the best hockey book of all time. He would advertise everything, and he would drink all of it.
Gump Worsley, presented by Simply Spiked.
That's right. Count me in. Okay, we got to finish up here. And thank everybody for joining us either on YouTube, on podcast, or in the chat. The Sheet is powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Vic, what should we be paying attention to today?
All right. Well, I got a bit of a different one here from FanDuel. So these are the bubble teams for the 25-26 playoffs. All right. So FanDuel has a list of every team that'll make the playoffs. And I picked the ones right on the bubble.
Montreal on the bubble, eh?
Yeah. And see, it's funny because you mentioned a trade between Edmonton and Anaheim not happening. Mm-hmm. Or sorry, not Edmonton and Anaheim. What was the team you mentioned? Sorry, that's on the cusp with Vancouver. Vancouver making a trade.
Vancouver Canucks,
Vancouver making a trade. Yeah. But the Islanders gave the Montreal Canadiens, as you see on the screen there, the two bubble teams, they gave them Noah Dobson. So how do you feel about that? Are those teams anywhere in the same boat right now for you?
That's why, listen, that's one of the things that I really admire about Matthew Darche. He's like, this is the best offer I can get. We're taking it. We're not worrying about anybody around us right now. We're not making trades based on what is this team going to do, because he has enough confidence in himself as a manager, albeit a rookie manager, to say, I don't care what other teams are doing. I'm making the best possible deal for us because I am building this team. And I'm going to build it the way that I see fit. And if that means I gotta send a player like a first pairing D to a team that I might be competing for a playoff spot, that's fine, because I'm building something for the long term here, just as Montreal are building something for the long term. It's not working out with Noah Dobson. He's got to move along. I'm taking my best deal.
I love it. And I wish more general managers would work in the same way, because I feel like the Toronto Maple Leafs get the short end of the stick a lot because we can't send him to Toronto. He'll make us look bad. I feel like that happens a lot. I mean, again, Revo thinks I'm crazy. So
we can't send him to Toronto because he has every Canadian team on his do not trade list.
That's fair too.
That's more like it. All right.
One day I'll have to ask you what your no trade list would be, but we'll get to that.
In the NHL?
Yes.
You know what? Okay. We're back on the air tomorrow. Let me think about that. That's a really great question.
I'm going to give you a 5-team no trade. Okay. So it's not.
I got a 5-team no trade.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. That's really good. Let's open the show with that tomorrow.
Can I do a shameless plug before we wrap here?
Always.
We will have Zeev Buyam on Morning Cup of Hockey this week. So,
okay.
Look out
for that. Is it going to be Demidov or Zeev Buyam for the Rookie of the Year next year?
I think it's Demidov. I think Demidov is just going to take
Zeev Buyam is so good.
I know, but do they get as much love back out in Minnesota? I feel like the hype train is just going to run wild with Demidov, and it pains me to say it, but they look really, really good on paper right now.
All right. Well, we'll stay tuned for that tomorrow on Morning Cup of Hockey. Zeev Buyam will stop by. The star from the University of Denver, the pioneer, now, of course, with the Minnesota Wild. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Thanks for lending us your attention, whether it's your ears, your eyeballs, or both. Your fingers in the chat, always appreciated as well. The show is back on the air tomorrow. Then I'm off for a few days and then return. And like it's going to be a weird summer schedule, folks, but we're keeping the feed hot and we're not going anywhere. So pay attention to your socials. Thanks for joining me here today. Sorry to keep you for so long, but class dismissed. We'll talk again tomorrow about our no trade list. That's interesting. Have a good 23 hours. Back in 24. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.